This is a little video about restoring our old Woodstock wind chimes that Scotty and John gave us. This first shot is just how bad the top of the bigger set had gotten. There's no way that any fastener was going to stick to that anymore. Not even a nail, not even a screw. So what I did was I bought the refurbishment kit from Woodstock, and I actually got two things. I got the clapper and wind catcher set, and I got the top, which they sell separately, and it comes with the string and it comes with really good instructions. And my plan was to use the old clapper and wind catcher here to replace the missing ones on our front set, which I had replaced not so successfully years ago. These are the tubes of the large set, and all they needed was to be cleaned up with some soap. That's just algae. They had no corrosion on them at all. They shined up real well. So it turns out when you go to restring them, you do them like this. And the only tool you really need is a T50 staple gun, although I did find it helpful to have a tap hammer to encourage the staples to go a little deeper than the staple gun was getting them. And so here I hung them up, and that made it easier to adjust them and then figure out what to do next. But the instructions are really good, really clear. That's them hanging up, all redone. That's the big set hanging on the shed where it has been missing for some time, waiting to be repaired. So that was last weekend. Well, I finished it today, but then that's the little set hanging up. The top of the little set is in really good shape. I pulled it, it's all nailed in there. I pulled all the finished nails out. They're pretty rusty. But then I started running into things. So I figured out that I should have thought of this. The clapper, the old clapper for the big set was too big for the small set. Imagine that. So I figured out that this is where I thought it should be in terms of diameter, and I drew a line on it, and then I cut it out with a jigsaw and got it to that size and finished it. And then later discovered that still was too big. It was still touching them. So I also had to make 3 attempts before I was able to get this one strung. This one is made differently with a bunch of holes, and instead of using staples, I ended up weaving the string all the way through, but I did it wrong twice, so I had to figure that out. Same general concept, but not exactly. I think that was when I hung it up and realized it was not going to work. So when I realized the clapper was too big, I figured out about how big it should be, and I realized my largest hole saw would do it, but it was kind of tough to get that to work. I eventually got that cut, sanded down, but because I had to use a hole saw, the guide bit for the center drilled out the center hole way too big, so I used a pencil tip driven in with a rubber mallet to hold the center string in place. It seemed to work fine. So the wind catcher was fine as is. I got that restrung. So there's that set restrung, hanging up back on the front porch. It's going to work a lot better now than it did before.